Welcome back to Next Normal with a session titled The Role of the Rep in Delivering Customer Experience Across Omnichannel. Together with me today, I have three extraordinary panelists. Let's start with the ladies first. We have Marina, Luca from Servier. Hello. Bonjour, Marina. How are you?
Bonjour. Hello, everyone. I'm great. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. And Mark Benthin, the CEO and founder of eHealth. Mark's very same question to you, but not on bonjour. We'll just say hi, Mark.
It's okay. We can practice the French as well.
Okay, and of course, we hope that Rorik will join us as well. He's having some small technical issues, but we expect him also in the meeting room very soon. So let's deep dive into the discussion. And we see many keywords and buzzwords in the title, like omnichannel, the medical rep, the future, what is the current state role, and so on and so forth. And my first question would be, let's set the foundations and speak about the current role of the rep within the omnichannel environment, or maybe we can even widen the perspective and even include the MSLs, because we see that the MSLs are also included in those particular omnichannel journeys. So let's hear first the perspective of you, Marina. Marina?
Sure. The role of the rep in the omnichannel, as you said, is always like a buzzwords and like what is the role of the rep in the omnichannel. First, I would say the role is even more and now and tomorrow super important for different reasons. First, because obviously the landscape, the ecosystem has changed a lot dramatically. Not talking about the COVID-19, obviously, but also because of all the data-driven world, the expectations and the level of expectations in terms of all the physicians and the HCPs to make sure that we are the right level of communication and to have the need and they answer the need, have the content the HCP and the physicians are expected. So here we have technology, the messages or the information that we're looking for and making sure the rep can answer to these needs. And then how everything is connecting and how to connect the dots to make sure that the experience is seamless and at the right level of expectations for the HCP, but also at the rep who has many informations, many tools, and expected to be at the top level in the delivering the message and making sure that he answer that. So basically the foundations could be obviously to make sure that you have a boosted rep with even more and more data and information to digest, and making sure that everything is seamless and in the best way possible in the communication that needs to stay as much as possible simple and with the high quality. Talking to medical content and everything, but I'm not sure if it's everywhere at the same level, but at least we expect it to be even more to the rep or the MSL in the center as an orchestrator, I would say.
Very good points. Thanks a lot, Marina. We see that Rorik also joined us in the meantime. Hi, Rorik. First of all, hope that you're doing well.
Thanks, Dario. All is well. Thanks for the invite.
Great. So I suppose you have heard some very interesting insights from Marina, and the very same question for you, which is, what is the current role of the rep and MSLs in the whole omnichannel environment?
I think Marina touched on some great points already before. Unfortunately, I was only to listen to half of it. I think what for me is very important that our field teams, whether it's indeed our sales reps or our medical liaisons, are at the forefront of how we engage with our customers. They are the gatekeepers of a good conversation. And but I would like to highlight, maybe in addition to what Marina said, it's very important to start to consider them as a channel that will stay, but that we rethink how we actually use our field force, because I think the dynamics continue to change internally as well as externally. And I think that will be the biggest question. How will we rethink that role of the rep moving forward?
Thanks a lot, Rorik. Mark?
Well, it's interesting that we're starting to see a shift in terminology. That's starting to happen, where I think everybody is on the same page that it is about the continuity of the conversation, that the field teams are really responsible for that last mile or last kilometer of contact and content delivery, and trying to make sure that content is appropriate and targeted and convenient, as well as being compliant. So all of the various C's are being covered. But it seems like we're starting to move to maybe it's not necessarily a new term across the industry, but we've heard a lot of reference to trusted advisor as being a new way to refer to the role that are aspired to by the different field teams in a different way that they operate. So it's really trying to make sure to maximize the opportunity. I think that evolution will occur naturally over the next several years, as it's more about the targeting, the improvement in the types of solutions and opportunities that really make sense for the reps to be involved in, and also the improvement in the back-end systems that help that front-end delivery seem so seamless and seem so convenient and seem so easy. So over the next few years, it seems like it's the right time to really optimize that role and put it into something where fundamentally it will remain the same, but there will be tweaks to how certain things are actually being executed, on a pretty regular basis, and having the right kind of agile footprint and approach is going to be critical.
Thanks a lot, Mark. We hear a lot about customer experience recently in pharma, which is of course very good to take this path and direction. But how are actually reps capable to deliver customer experience to key stakeholders, and which are those key stakeholders to whom they should deliver customer experience? Let's start this time with you, Rorik.
Thanks, Dario. Not an easy question, and I think it's also not a slam dunk from an answer perspective. So how can we actually improve that experience? The first point that I'd like to make on the topic is that it's sometimes very easy to continue to see our field as the main and core orchestrator. Where I believe in is almost like a hybrid model. And what do I mean with hybrid model? I think depending on the customer needs, customer potential, it might also be the office that is actually orchestrating that customer experience. But I think it's almost independent of whether it's the office teams that are orchestrating the engagement or whether it's the field teams. I think there are some critical success factors that one should consider. In slightly random order, but starting with technology and processes, I think we already talked about some of the tools, but it's about how will we actually work better with the tools and with the data that we have available. And I think Mark talked about that as well, just briefly. How can we make sure that there's a seamless integration on our backend to make sure that what's happening with our customers also feels completely streamlined, that they don't sense or feel that they now talk to another individual or somebody else is orchestrating their experience, right? That's all very internally focused. So I think the first part is around those tools, the integration of systems and data, but also together with potentially different processes. So how do we do performance measurement? How do we track success, again, whether it's from the field or from an office perspective? It would be very interesting if we can slowly start moving away, and know that's already happening across some of our across the industry. Can we move away from definitions like sales to what's in it for our customers, and how can we deliver on that, and how can we track that? And it's very different, right? Whether you talk to an oncologist or maybe a nurse that is supporting in that same practice. So that comes back again to the data and the customer understanding. So it's the data, it's the tools, it's some of the processes as well, but ultimately also skills and knowledge. And yes, it's very easy to say it's all about digital savviness. I have to admit I'm 2 minutes late because I could not get in to the meeting. So I'll be the first one to blame that is maybe a gap still there. But I think it's equally important that our field teams better know our customers. So what do they know about the healthcare system? What do they know about the disease? What do they know about potential barriers that actually stop our customers, whether again it's one single HCP or maybe in a hospital count? What stops them from treating and giving the best opportunity to patients in need? And I think that is a bigger mindset shift, and far more important than, hey, let's drive the digital savviness of our field force, which is almost very often the go-to topic in these sort of conversations.
Thanks a lot, Rorik. Marina, very same question for you.
I completely hear, and it resonates what just Rorik said, obviously, in terms of having the tools, the process, the mindset, the skills. The point is the also to make sure that everything is sort of orchestrated and in a roadmap also, because obviously everybody wants to do like everything that's at the very best, but I believe that at some
Marina, we lost you. Marina? Okay. Mark, maybe you can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think on this process, we talked about it being a conversation, and so there's lots of back-end data-driven channels that are being enabled to be able to understand the data that's being gathered from all these, from every channel. And reps being involved, they definitely do need to be involved, and I think they can also be part of that human face to many of the digital approaches. And they can serve to both amplify as well as contextualize that content and knowledge for any one of those individual stakeholders that they might be in conversation with. So as much as we can, I think we need to make sure that they are involved, whether that means that they're, more savvy, or I believe it's not necessarily about digital savviness. It's really just about understanding that there are other things and other sources of contact and information, and that there would be sources of knowledge that are coming from the company to be able to say, okay, Dr. X has been participating in this kind of event, has seen this kind of material, and looks like needs reinforcement on this kind of message or content. The rep should be able to do what they need to do at that time to be able to turn that into a positive experience. And I think that's where we can really use the human beings to help bridge the gap, right? To find different ways to approach the same question, to be able to amplify the things that have been said in order to make them a little bit more relevant to those end stakeholders.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Marina?
Sorry, lost you.
Issue, so you can continue or start from the very beginning.
Yeah, sorry, no worries. Just wanted to add to, I guess, what just Rorik just said at the very beginning. Sorry, Mark, I couldn't catch up. I was lost. The point was to make sure that you actually deliver a plan, a roadmap that is realistic, and start from where the actual people and all the affiliates and the reps are. Because if you build like how to be the best in class right away, it's like it can seem kind of impossible in a way. Where when you do step by step in a Mark, you mentioned the agile way, it makes things even better and even more concrete to the field, to say, okay, we'll do it step by step, channel by channel, process by process, to make sure that at the very end, it doesn't seem too complicated to everyone, and to make sure that at every step of the way, you get better and better with the tools, the process, the mindset, and integrating, and that's my second part, is to make sure that everyone in the company feels involved with it, from the content creation, being with the marketing teams or the medical teams, to the very end, how this actual message is in the scenario, in the tools. Everything needs to be at the top excellence level, but also everything needs to be in that kind of transformation, to make sure that it's at the very best of the actual result as a company, and as in the best interaction with the HCPs, obviously.
Thanks a lot, Marina. Since COVID started, we all know that Pharma has been very keen and focused on implementing a lot of tools, all kinds of technology, especially in the digital space, right? However, from today's perspective, since the environment is slightly changing, in some aspects it's changing back to normal, or of course to a futuristic one, which tools do you see as emerging and critical for delivering customer experience and insights to rep to be capable to deliver customer experience? Mark, maybe you can start with this one, because you're actually coming from a solution vendor side, and I believe you have this very good helicopter overview of everything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that seem simple can end up being complex and complicated, and no matter what, yeah, in any industry, I guess. But also the challenge is that we get a little the frame of multi-channel moving to omnichannel. A lot of people would then doing the same things. So all the emails look the same. Any physician receives an email, looks the same. So there's some expectation of content and how it will be delivered, and that's maybe useful to establish a baseline. But I think we really have an opportunity here Now that some core infrastructure is in place that is common, and there is a way to get data back and have it all communicated effectively and understood and whatnot, that we can make things a lot more convenient, that we should be able to, for all actors, convenient from a representative perspective, convenient from a stakeholder who's receiving information, to make it easy to consume the content, to understand what is the actual message, to also to differentiate from those that are not taking this road of differentiating their customer engagement approach. Obviously we have a particular focus on personalized video, lifelike avatars, and that kind of data-driven possibility. And we find that just the notion of video and the fact that you can actually deliver a hyper-personalized message, it's a night and day between that and reading a set of materials. So the ability to then lever that relationship and use the tools differently than how somebody else might be using the same baseline capability means you can go a lot further and really start to change that engagement with those end customers. And obviously the reps can be a big piece of that.
Thanks a lot, Rorik?
Yeah, Mark, some great points you already raised. Only two things that I'd like to add: assuming that we have the right strategy in place, that we are aligned on the messages, and that we have the ability to execute against segments and the adoption letters that we've set. I think two things will make a big differentiator. To me, it's not more tools. To me, it's the integration of tools that will make the difference. Because if we integrate the tools, we're able to get the data back and become more meaningful in our conversations. And again, to be decided whether the field will take the lead for this account or for this customer, or whether it's maybe an office-based function that delivers an activity. So for me, the first part is around that integration of channels, getting the data and making something meaningful from it, right? And sounds very easy, but it's not. And the second thing has to do with my last remark. Do we have a process in place? Do we have an approach in place that forces us as cross-functional teams to sit at the table and to relook what's happening with my customers? What is it that they are indeed open for? The example that Mark shared, do we indeed see much more engagement on video messages that we deliver to them that are hyper-personalized from something generic that we're doing? So to me, it's also that like a supporting framework or process that gets all the important stakeholders back to the table to start thinking about how can we better support Dr. Mark, or to be more concrete, how can we convert Dr. Mark to that next step in the adoption ladder based on activities that should be deployed by one of us in that cross-functional team. And I think if you can start to get that together and find the right rhythm, I think that's where customer experience, customer impact will start to increase.
Very good points. Thanks a lot, Rorik. Marina?
Yeah, I would take back to just the first part that I absolutely believe it's fundamental is what you call the integration, Rorik. I call it the ecosystem, to make sure that it's all like just all in one, and not having this feeling that you try to bridge like some old habits or tools or way of doing to new one, and that can be as a feeling just painful. So trying to make sure that this whole ecosystem is taught and built and lived and perceived internally as something that makes sense in the way it's used, in the way it's the perception, and integrating also, as you just said, data, but not data as data, just because it's insight and easily integrated to understand that it's something that's given to you to make your own decision, being in whatever hybrid, human, or omnichannel, which is actually not being in pharma for so long, like every kind of customer experience that you want to have, no matter what the direction is. So at some point, my dream would be to say that we have the same expectations and experience within the pharma industry, in the interactions between the rep, the HCP, or just like people working in the labs and marketing medical teams, as we are doing it in other industries. So I believe it's somewhere in between the two, having like the best-in-class examples we all have in mind, talking about the videos, the interactions, the emails, to make sure that it's, as Mark was saying, hyper-personalized, but not being something like, oh my God, now it is. It's because in our everyday life, going on Netflix, Amazon, everything, it's so obvious that at some point, I think we're on the way to say that, okay, that's the whole thing about integrating having that ecosystem, then that will not be a surprise anymore, or a pain anymore, or a good surprise anymore to say. So that's it. So I guess it's part of the path and the way that's just happening now. I guess a bit later than the other industries, but the good thing is that we're not the first ones. So hopefully we will be using and taking over some good stuff in other industry to make sure that we're, a step aside, but definitely the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, to make sure that it makes sense globally, like with all the actors, and be having the best experience for everyone.
So again, it's Omnichannel.
Definitely.
Last question. We really speak a lot about customer experience, how to deliver it, and at least Pharma tries to do something in that regard, in that field. So how Pharma can actually differentiate, or why should Pharma differentiate when it comes to customer experience in the whole omnichannel ecosystem? And do you think it is possible or even important to create such customer experience mindset that you can say, okay, here we have the BMS experience, here we have the Servier experience, or any other Pharma company experience? Let's start with you, Mark.
Well, I think this is a place as well where you can look at other industries, and we can take some examples of where that differentiation of customer experience has been a big part of the success. I can think of a couple well, you mentioned Netflix already, but a couple other examples. When Airbnb started, it was just one of many different approaches to online booking of accommodation. But how they differentiated was making it very focused on the experience and the design side, making it very easy, postcard-like, so you really felt like you were there, even in those first days. And since then, that element of carrying that experience right the way through their brand has helped them to grow to be one of the top, accommodation providers globally, and weather a pandemic where they lost half their business overnight. So, it does work. There are examples, and it's about being consistent and over time being able to carry that through. Other cases would be something like an Uber, where it's really driven by that convenience, whether it's Uber Eats or Uber Car or any of the services. It's really about the overall trend line of convenience, of access to services in a just much more easy way than it used to be. And we see that happening across various industries. Delivery of food items is one of them. And that trend of convenience we cannot forget about on the patient side or on the physician side. We're all consumers, and we all have a reduced amount of time to be able to focus on the work that we need to do. So if there is a more convenient, more simple way to understand the depths of the details of a particular topic, that will certainly be the one that physicians gravitate towards over time.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Marina?
Yeah, I was actually to what the examples that we just heard being Airbnb or Uber. The thing is also in terms of Pharma, not coming from Pharma for so long, is also to make sure at some point that to keep the customer experience at the very center, but also I believe the always on. I felt at the very beginning, like 2 years ago, that there was a difference in the speed and in the rhythm of getting a stuff, while the Pharma, because of many reasons, research with the R&D industry and everything, it's not the same pace, I was going to say. So I believe the Pharma can be actually one of the best of the two worlds, making sure to keep, because it's obviously medicine, research, and very high excellence in the Pharma because of the product and the level of experience and of the people that we want to target. Obviously, like food delivery, you don't have really the same like customers that are talking to guys on onco or cardio, obviously. But the point is to make sure that it's an always-on process. Then you can actually adapt, because also that's the second part. The Pharma for a long time did not have to adapt because it was not like required at some point, where today it is, and that's channel, and to redesign the different roles that we have, including the rep. But the always on, based on the data, based on the feedbacks, the insights, and their experience, the always on process, being agile or whatever, is something I think that can actually bring even more value to Pharma as starting later. So I strongly believe that it's a good point to have starting a bit later, and kind of catch the best of what already happened maybe 10 years ago in some other industry, and make sure that we move faster in even a better shape and better results, and with the always on process.
Thanks a lot, Marina. Rorik?
I think I can only summarize now, Dario, of what the others have said. And to me, the biggest point would be customer understanding. So all the examples that we spoke to, all the companies that were mentioned, the Ubers or the Netflix of this world, they know us very well, right? They know what were the barriers to get a taxi, right? You need to call, you need to wait, somebody will show up, the price might be right, might not be right, you might get a receipt, maybe not. So they really went above and beyond to actually understand, this is what I like to offer. How can I do this in the most efficient way? So that's I think what we can learn from all these examples, and I think we can apply it to two different opportunities that we have. The first opportunity is, how do we engage our physicians, nurses, or whatsoever, right? I think taking that same principle of how well do we understand them, what are their barriers to work with us or to not work with us, but also the next and to me even more important of stakeholders, the patients. So what do we learn from working with HCPs, with healthcare professionals, to do a better job in what we can offer for patients? And again, with that same mindset, do we really understand what's driving them? What is it that triggers them to take a drug or to not take a drug, to be adherent or to not be adherent? So it all comes back to me to that in-depth customer understanding, and it's, I think, something you can apply to a lot of the cases that we just discussed.
Excellent. So still a long journey to go when it comes to customer experience, when it comes to the definition of the customer experience, and so on, right? However, there is one question which I would like really to ask and raise. How about coaching and aligning reps with the new modern technology and the new tools? How do you see that part and aspect as a critical one, in particular at your site, Rorik and Marina, since you are in a pharma company?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, great question again. It's something that is ongoing, right? So if you think about coaching, training, upskilling, I think that's something ongoing. But for me, it's much less, as I shared, it's much less on the digital side, right? So how should we use remote detailing, or how should we use a certain tool? It is that rep versus customer relationship building that needs different skills than maybe what we saw 10 years before, where you could maybe walk in, deliver your promotional messages, and you were done. It is a much more consultative approach that we need to take. We need to go back to that customer understanding to make sure that these interactions will become much more meaningful. And to me, that's an ongoing journey, right? For me as an individual as well, I need to be open for what's happening and how I can also keep up with what's required. And that often goes beyond the practical tools, but it's about customer understanding, customer empathy, and being able to partner. And that comes with coaching, but also I think that's equally important, the empowerment of our field force, that we also move away from seeing them as the delivery person of our messages, because that's not going to be a sustainable model.
Fantastic. Marina?
Actually, that was something that we didn't, in terms of what we needed to settle and to implement to make sure that the omnichannel is accelerated. The training part was definitely not as big as we thought it would be today. It's major. The coaching part, making sure that you interact, making sure that you imply and make sure that people really understand the why, not just the how. To make sure that it actually makes sense for them at the very end, and not just apply things, as Rorik was saying, to make sure, okay, I need to do that this way. That takes a long effort and journey, and it's, again, always on, making sure so that at the very end, we hope at some point makes things natural in a way and not like something new. So, it's on, and the coaching and training is really a huge part. And again, tools good, process good, but making sure that it makes sense in terms of also in terms of soft skills, not anymore like in old competencies that we used to look for. Definitely something very central to make sure that everything is aligned.
Very interesting. Mark, final words. You're actually left with a couple of seconds, so
Yeah, we started at the beginning thinking of, is it from a field perspective or the rep perspective, is it a change or adjustment in terminology that we're seeing going forward? No matter how we talk about it, it's no longer the delivery matrix of yesteryears. It's really something where there's ambassadorship, there's a need to be present and involved and willing and understanding. We may not be digital experts, but understanding the goals of the digital channels and being able to provide that soft skill guidance to those end customers is really a critical role for the reps and those ambassadors going forward. So we think it's a key piece of a very successful customer experience program.
Thanks a lot, Mark, for this final words. So again, Marina, Rorik, Mark, was really a great conversation. Looking to the next one, and take very good care.
Thank
Thanks all.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.